Yeah, I know, I've jumped the gun and there's no back wall in the new mobile studio and there's so much more work to do, but oh my God, I started watching YouTubes, started to think about what mixing desk to use in this studio. I was like, wow, I've got a Zoom L7. Why do I say L7? I've got a Zoom L8, I know why. I've got a Zoom L8 sitting at the back in Studio 3, not really getting used. I've got an L12 Zoom that's being currently used every day in Studio 1. And in Studio 2, of course, I use the Presonus 32SX, the big monster, the big machine. But I also use a Rodecaster Pro on the desk in Studio 1 for users, producers that come in after hours and record their own shows and stuff like that, because they can just plug their laptop in and they're good to go. And my God, there's no bones about it. The Rodecaster Pro changed the world for me and all of us in the podcast industry and all people podcasting at home and everywhere. It really opened it up. And the amount of Rodecaster Pros that people have bought because I've said, you just got to get one of those. Yeah, but should I get it? No. Just get one of those. You know why? You press that big red button and off you go. I can relax knowing that you've recorded everything and you can't really f it up. So I get in there and set it up for them to make sure that it's actually recording multi-channel onto the SD, pre-fader. It's very hard to mess it up, and that's great. So I started thinking about what I was going to use in this room. Microphones, mixer, all of that, right? It was like, well, I do have a bunch of SM7Bs. That's what I use primarily in the main two indoor studios. I didn't want the mess of cables and cloud lifters and all that sort of carry on in here. So I've been looking at different options of hypercardioid microphones and things like that. But then I started watching YouTubes about the new Rodecaster Pro 2. Now I had, I thought, look, I've got one, and I've actually got two Rodecaster Pro 1s. One's in use at the moment. I thought, do I use one in the mobile studio? Probably. Do I use the L8? Probably. Who knows? But there was limitations to the Rodecaster Pro that I didn't want to have it as the main. That's the reason I'm using the L12 in Studio 1 and why I'm using the L8 in Studio 3 is because of the limitations and primarily the ability to put line in that isn't that TRRS. So when I heard that this thing had reprogrammable inputs like the sliders and had multi-jacks, whatever you want to call it, multi-use XLRs, could also be used for 1/4 inch inputs. I was like, oh my Lord, I have to have one of those. I have to have one of those. Now I want one for in here. So I ordered one and then I went, what am I thinking? This is what I should be rolling also in Studio 1. And here's the thing, are we ever going to get to opening this? Here's the thing, this is just from what I've gleaned off YouTube. So you don't even have to watch this. Go and watch someone else's video. But the thing is, and this is huge, the preamps. Something that concerns me in Studio 1 a little bit is preamp noise and interference, having to have 4 cloud lifters sort of on and around the desk, multiple cable joins, and also just the preamp noise basically of the L12 as it's aging a little bit, and also in order to operate those SM7Bs from Shure. And when I found out this thing should, I'll prove it, everyone has to prove it, right? But this thing apparently will roll an SM7B directly in without any cloudlifter or Fedhead, Dynamite, whatever it is your thing. And apparently, if you do use your cloudlifter inline, it will add a noise floor. It will add more noise. So I can't wait to find out what the noise floor is on the preamps on this thing. But it was a must get. That's the huge part of that for in the van here means I can choose any microphone I want to keep it nice and simple, and there's no cloud lifters in the van. So I can set this up permanently rather than have to change mixers because I've got a different, because I'm using a different mic for a different purpose or whatever. If I want to if I'm using these Rode Pod mics in here, for instance, and then for a special occasion I want to bring in one of my SM7Bs for a voiceover or whatever it is, or one-on-one for interviews, I don't have to rewire the whole place to use a cloud lifter or the Fedhead. So pretty stoked about being able to say this belongs in here or this belongs in Studio One, and that's that. I don't have to think about it anymore. Shall I open it up? Yes, because once I open it up and get it going, then we've got better audio, because this is the Canon M50 onboard microphone. I could have set up a little shotgun mic on that camera, but let's enjoy the difference. Let's see what happens here. Very interested to hear some feedback on people about the... Number one, this box is a lot smaller than the original. In fact, when the parcel arrived, I went, "Oh, that's not going to be it. That's going to be something else I've ordered." But it's quite a lot smaller than the original, which is great, especially for in this van. What was I going to say? Who knows? I'm not really an unboxing king. Don't like to record on video me ripping apart boxes. It says, "Welcome to Next Level Audio." Well, I hope so. And here's interesting. Everyone's got their own word for it, but this is not a kettle cable. The little offset three-way one. That's all that was in that bit. Here we get to the good bit. I've been waiting for this, and I've actually sat here. Look at this. I've sat here with a micro SD card, just waiting. I'm ready to roll. I'll take this out. We love new things. Okay, nice packaging, Rode. Well done once again. What does it say inside the box? We're advertising the pod mic and the PSA 1 Plus. We love those. I use those in Studio 3 for interviewing rock stars, so we can pull the microphone across in front of the stool that they sit on. In here, you'll notice I'm using the Elgato mic arm, which is boom arm, which is low level and almost like the ones I actually designed and made myself, and a few clients of mine are using them as well. Repurposed. Some particular repurposed monitor arms that I remanufacture to make them work really well with work really well with for microphones. So these are a bit like that. They normally have two articulations, but I've just got one on for now to keep it tidy, because it's really nowhere near time to start using this studio yet. I've got, as you can see, I haven't put the back wall in. So looks like a really good USB-C cable. USB-C at both ends. So modern. There was one thing when the Zoom L8 arrived, which was probably about 12 months after the Rodecaster Pro, I think, something like that, maybe. And it had micro USB. It just made your heart sink. Because I don't know what the difference is. Maybe it doesn't matter, but it just made you think, oh, this is, when you ever got a device out and it's got the mini USB and you just kind of know that it's going to be a bit dated. You know, it's like a big flag on it that says low res or something. It just felt a bit like that. So a double-ended USB-C means they mean business. The Rodecaster Pros that I use, they get power through a power supply and a screw-in, so it's a completely separate power supply. And this appears to have a power supply there that is powered through the little Olympics plug, mini kettle. I don't know, I'll find out what you call it. I'll put it on there. So it clearly is chucking in USB-C as a power source. Let's have a little look. This is probably the first video I've done in years, which has been just recording on a mirrorless or SLR or whatever. Ever. Now this is exciting. It's something I wasn't aware of, but what we have here is a mount, a thread built in here. It looks like it's pretty solidly in there, and I'll tell you why in a sec. But it's a thread, how many eighths? Whatever imperial measurement a mic stand, the smaller of the microphone arm thread is. So I could quite literally have a microphone arm that has this on it that can swing over here and swing out of the way for people that are recording, you know, for people that are in the show and recording. That's pretty cool. And how I know it's a good solid mount is because out here there are 4 holes which look mysteriously like they will easily put this onto a monitor stand. So most monitor stands, you can have them that way and the same thing. So I can use one of my bespoke mic arms without changing it to mic. I just get one straight out of the box, use a monitor arm, clamp it to the table and swing it out, do what I need to do, and you can just gently just push it away. As long as you route your cables correctly, it's going to be grass. I see so many YouTubers do all this and then finally take the plastic off. I just take the plastic off. I need to get that experience right away. This looks fantastic. And the first thing I'm really loving, this is not supposed to be an unboxing chit-chat. Anyway, it is now. First thing I'm noticing is the monitor, the screen, if you like, the monitor, is up on an angle, which is such a relief not to have to sort of, because you know, obviously the manufacturers and designers have a certain use in mind, but they can't even imagine the weird places this thing's going to be, where you don't necessarily want to have to lean up to have a look at the screen. So that's awesome. I'm seeing the record button isn't using as much real estate as it used to, but I think it'll still be, my vernacular probably won't change, which is like, you can't go wrong, press the big red button, right? And there it is on the left, out there on its own as well. So it's not like I did press a button, it's out there on its own. That's the only button around there. Okay, on the left, maybe I'll show you. Big button, all right? It's still nice and big, and I'm sure it's colourful when we plug it in. I've got lots of work to do to work out how to wire this thing up. It's most likely going to operate off the 12-volt system of this van when it's in here. So therefore I'll have a USB-C cable powering, but I'll have to read up on how much juice it actually needs, and I might take something specifically for it from the fuse box in the van. But for now, I can still easily run it off, and I do have it. It might be better. I have 2 inverters in the van. I've got a 400-watt inverter, which I was imagining is what I would use for, the battery's about to go flat in this camera. It is new to me. So I've got a 400-watt inverter, which I might use just for this, just for audio. And I've got another inverter that can roll heaters and air cons and things like that. So here we go. I will endeavour to change the battery then in the camera and then plug this in, see what happens. I'm back. Right. Now I've plugged the other end of the adapter into my inverter. So I should have 240 volts of power. And I haven't looked at the back yet. Let's have a look. Oh, that's a nice touch. These preamps are numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4 this way up, but they've put the numbers upside down on the top so that when you're looking over, you can still see them, because that does your head in if it's underneath, or, you know, it's so good because your wires might be going up or down and blocking it. That's so good. I love it. It's a nice touch. So we've got some nice 1/4-inch outputs for headphones, 1, 2, 3, 4, just like the old one. And the monitor's out 1/4 inch, which is just like the old one. And we appear to have 3 USB-C holes in the back here. One of them, I'm guessing, is for this, because it's got a lightning thing and a power button. And I'll press on. And it's starting up. All right. Ba-da-da. Boom, 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 boom. Right, so what else can I see? God knows what all this is for. We have a micro SD slot, much tight. It's not out on its own, so it's in amongst all the business. So let's pop that in there. Does that little springy in thing. And it's lit up like a Christmas tree, this thing. Oh yeah, can't wait. Okay, so I'm guessing from the YouTubes I've looked at, we've got the normal computer connection, but I'm guessing you can also plug in another computer and use it. Oh, I'm seeing something here that I'm thinking could be really good. 1 computer and 2 computer. I know I've read somewhere you can actually run this at the same time as the audio device for 2 separate computers. That'd be cool somehow. Until you've got something, you don't know how you're going to use it, but that'd be cool. But the other one, hopefully, you can also run in an input rather than have to put in an analog from a device, another computer or an iPad or whatever. You could possibly run it in. Can't wait to put the soundproof ends on this bit. Run another device with sounds on it or whatever. But that's pretty cool. I can also see what appears to be a network cable port. Could be. Although, I don't know if I've got my scale wrong with my glasses. It appears to be. But maybe you can link multiple of these together or something like that. Let's find out. We'll find out. We don't need to right now, but it's good to know. Good to know. All right, what can I see? What can I see that isn't here? And that is, I don't see, so far, I'm not seeing the TRRS input, which I use, you know, just about every day for things. It's got to be possibly in the front. I'm also not seeing the producer headphone output. So in version number 1, you've got a producer headphone output that doubles up 1, headphone number 1, which is really cool because you can send 4 headphones to your people at your desk and you can listen on as the producer knowing you're hearing the same thing. Do you want to format the SD card? Yes, I do. So let's find out what the options are to put, just to plug in a TRRS, which is to use a phone on there. Hopefully they haven't decided we've all got to use Bluetooth, because that audio was it's nowhere near as good. Maybe I'm just blind, or maybe it's about using this USB port instead. We'll find out. Also, there is the option of putting, but I don't know if these ports are going to come in as stereo, but we'll have to look it up. It's all a learning curve. But if one of these ports can be refunctions as a stereo input, then that's probably where I'd put my sound effects, because I use a in one of the studios I use a little tablet, a little cheap little tablet that has software on it, and I program in from just using the Wi-Fi and my Dropbox, and I can just load up sound effects and stuff that I need, or clips for any shows that I'm doing, and just store it all in there. And it's really, really handy because I can just access thousands, unlimited amount of clips from the Dropbox and play it. And I normally play it through a TRS cable, or a TRS cable, I should say. But that's going to be interesting, whether that's going to sort of, whether we're gaining on the swings and losing on the roundabouts, or I imagine the reprogrammable channels that I've been reading about will make this all magic. There are 6 sliders. Okay, and I believe that this big knob here, there's one big knob out on its own, will be for controlling things, and yes, it's a click. None of the others are. It's a click button, so which is a really handy feature I've found on a lot of devices lately. When you're selecting, look, you can click it without trying to find other buttons. But I believe you can assign other channels to be adjusted with this if they don't need that much adjustment. Or if you need to fade something out and in during the show or whatever, you would assign it to a slider, I imagine, so that you can do that and assign something that doesn't need to be messed with straight to this other channel. But what's the point talking about that when I don't know and I haven't used it yet? Okay, I'm gonna sign off now and go and probably play with this in the main studio, or wait till I've got a computer out here so I can get the firmware up to date and start mess potting around. All right, see ya. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, we now have an inability to press record. Hey, I'm back. I've had a little fiddle and this thing's brilliant. I love it. So first of all, working out, I went, oh, where's the monitor knob? Because it's pretty important to turn your monitors off when you're about to record, and it's the big one, the big green knob here. The big green knob does the monitor unless you click it, and when you click it, it starts operating. It's pretty cool. Go and see someone else's YouTube video on this kind of stuff, but it is awesome. So I'll turn my monitors up, and what I've done here, can you hear that? I've got some little Presonus 3.5-inch studio monitors to operate in this van, whether or not they're ones that I just hang in this room for personal entertainment reasons or for feedback for the clients, or whether I use them in the open area when I'm having a listen back and I've had a gutful of headphones. But you can hear them there, and of course you've got the first thing we did was what I'm going to do is this is a music bed that's part of the automatic comes with it, the mixing banks. So what I'm going to do is there. So I clicked this big button twice until it went over to the channel that has the music bank, and that controls the volume of it. So that's pretty easy stuff to do. You wouldn't want to hit the button at the wrong time when you've got the monitors on if you're recording with headphones, but then I'll press it again and it will operate whatever I've allotted to the one of those N channels that don't have a slider. So, and I'll press it again, it's back to the monitors. So there it is. So I put the monitors off quickly by turning that a million times, and then I'm just on this microphone. So what I'll do is hit record. So this is it. This is the pod mic through the Rodecaster Pro 2 in what will be what's known as the Castaway sound bus, let's say. This one is called Wilson. How could I forget? It's a Castaway gag. So this is Wilson, the Castaway sound bus. So for now, working title. We don't have end walls, so I've sorted out most of the soundproofing in the floor, the walls, and the ceiling of the studio area, but it's a big long van and there's a section of it just going to be walled off, which I haven't done yet. So let's see how good that gating works. Okay, so I've got this set currently to record post fader, and the not post fader with the effects on. I normally in my day-to-day life bypass effects. I don't want anything messed with in the recording. I want that SD card or computer audio just to be the raw wave, because I could do plenty of stuff afterwards and I don't want anything baked in. So I'm guessing what you're hearing now is post FX right now, and I will probably stop it and then give you, I will, in fact. Processing. So just go to home. It doesn't take long. I thought, this is going to be hard to work around, but it really doesn't take long once you work out what does what. For instance, to get to the recording FX and SD card and stuff, that would be for outputs, right? And then multi-track, which won't let it do it because I've paused the recording. So I'll go back and do that again. Outputs, multi-track. Okay, so that's where on your recording on board, you can choose off or pre-fader or post-fader. So I always go pre-fader for recording, so there's no mistakes. A punter can press that big button and know that that's a reasonable redundancy, keeping in mind that I nearly always, apart from today, use the SD recording on one of these things purely as a backup or redundancy, and I record normally straight to a DAW, Reaper generally. But there's also an option here to bypass processing, so I can press that now, go to home, press record again, and hopefully I'm back on board and I've bypassed processing. So it probably will sound differently to what I'm hearing in my headphones, because my headphones are hearing any processing that's happening, which is really toned down. I turn off big bottom, I turn off the aural exciter. I think I put a gate at the bottom, like minus 60 dB gate, just to help with when you've got 4 microphones, so that when there's not 4 times, preamp noise and stuff like that. But I'm not hearing any preamp noise at all. I look forward to taking this recording, getting it into my big studio and then pumping it up, and just to hear if what I believe is true. There's very, very quiet preamps in here. I just set it to PodMic. There's a picture of it and everything, which is exciting for me. And there are options there to set it to non-Rode branded microphones, which is I think it's a very grown-up thing to do. It makes sense. Let's face it, this company, Australian company, I'm so proud, I'll tear up if I talk about it too much. They're ruling the world with this device. And they make epic microphones. So the way to really rule the world is to say, yeah, sure, yeah, you can use anything on our device that everyone in the world either has or wants who does podcasts. So there you go. Don't get me started on my love of Rode as a company. So there's so much to do here, but it's pretty exciting. I've got to work out a few things, and I guess there might be a few cables I need. For instance, if I'm wanting to do a phone link up, where traditionally I would put the TRRS cable in the back of the Rodecaster Pro 1, or I think the Zoom L8 has the same thing, or in my big studio, I can run that through a splitter and do all sorts of, sort of slightly more complex ways of getting a phone call into it. Quite often using the good old, what's it called? iRig 2 setup. It's an ancient hack now, that one, but it's still working in that studio. So it's not here. So I'm guessing that you get a cable that goes from Lightning to USB-C. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'll research that and correct myself, I suppose, pretty quickly, because that's the first thing I'll have to get going. Because one of the big things about this studio will probably be remote, apart from its primary purpose, and that is to provide a voiceover room for audiobooks. But the need and use for it is growing and growing quicker than I can build it. But one of them will be to go somewhere and get a guest and remote connect them to a studio in somewhere else in the world. Like tomorrow morning, I think I'm coming in at 5 a.m. to facilitate a recording with a guest, with someone in Boston. And in some cases, we can add another leg to the remoteness, and I can go and find them, because they can't always, if someone's in a remote place or a country town or whatever, and there's no studios in that area to go to, we can take it to them. That's kind of the idea. So stage one of the most critical things will be to work out how to get a phone call through here without using Bluetooth. I don't want to do that. Although, having said that, maybe it's really good. I don't know. I know in the original it just was a little crisper, a little clearer, and a little more comforting, I suppose, to have it plugged in through the cable. So let's find out. I'll have to learn a bit about phones, because I've never really known what cables you can plug an iPhone through, but I bet you it's possible. Let's find out. I'm assuming there's a female to use a Lightning. I might have a Lightning to USB-C cable already. I should have, that came with the iPad. All right, we'll give it a shot ASAP, and I'll get back to you on that one. But enough jibber jabber. All you're getting here is my excitement and the promise of good things in here. But I think that really resolves one of the big questions about this studio. It's so small. The rubber feet are so good, even on this Laminex table. I could drive around and that thing is not going to slide anywhere. It's just got a really nice sticky footprint, if you like. It's just, you can't push it along, which is brilliant. In this room, my mixer will be out there with me in general. But the reason I love the Rodecaster as an option is, and it's what I do in one of my studios, is I have one in the middle of the desk there that when I'm the engineer, I'm not using, but other people can self-manage and self-engineer their own production after hours and stuff like that. That can also happen in here. I can pop it in here and people can start and stop to their heart's content. There's not much else I can say without doing some more work. We don't know. I'm not used to recording onto SD, and I'm not used to recording onto a camera on SD either. So it looks like a lot of hard work. I normally go through NDI with the camera and record straight away onto vMix, and that's the end of it. But we'll see how we go once I get it indoors and see what's what. It'll also be interesting to hear the road noises and stuff that are coming through pre putting the end soundproof walls on. I'll press stop now. I can't think of anything else that I discovered that was critical to talk about. But all right, that's it. That's all I'm going to do today. Next time I speak to you about this machine, I will have it all set up and know it wall to wall. Hey, Derek here in the main studio. So here I'm at the control desk of Studio 2, and I've brought in from the van, I've brought in the SD card from the camera, and I've brought in the SD card from the Rodecaster. And as I was saying before, one of the great things about the Rodecaster is the idiot proofness, right? Because you just say, whatever you do, press that button, right? And you know it's going to record all the tracks. Now, it's not been easy trying to convince people that they have not recorded just one stereo track because of the nature of the multi-wave file. So the Rodecaster one would record, for simplicity, the sense of simplicity, it would record all the tracks onto one file, but that file internally would contain, was it 14 tracks, some stereo, some mono, and all that. So that would be, you would have to put them in your DAW and burst them apart to get that. So I've just put the SD card. I'm going to show you. I'm going to reenact. I'm not going to bullshit you here. So I'm going to go to the SD card, and it's got a folder called Rodecaster, and there's the 3 different mucking around sessions that I've done. So the third one, and look at that. This is fantastic. And for several reasons why I'm excited right now. Firstly, track 1, mic 1, is track 1, is mic 1. Whereas when you used to, when you'd send an output through USB, and I'm hoping this is how it's going to be when I go in straight into a digital audio workstation from the Rodecaster Pro 2, it makes track 1 and 2 the stereo mix, which is a bit irritating. Zoom didn't do that, and it was great. So you've got track 1 is mic 1. Otherwise, it creates confusion. So you're always doing maths on it, going, all right, track microphone 3 is going to be track number 5, kind of thing. In the track numbers that are available through the USB, through the audio device, and the drivers. So look at this. I'm pretty excited to see that it just comes up as separate tracks, and it's not one multi-wave file. So I can actually just open that up and go, well, it was only me that was talking, and hit that. And the stereo track is called stereo mix. It's not called track 1 and track 2. So if I press record again, and hopefully I'm back on board and I've bypassed processing. So it probably will sound differently to what I'm hearing in my headphones. So I'm pretty sure that when you bypass processing for recording, even the stereo mix still has it on. No, I'm thinking about post fader and pre fader. So I love the idea that the stereo mix still has it how you hear it in your headphones, and yet all the separate tracks are raw as raw can be, which is great. So I was talking into track 1, mic 1. Press record again, and hopefully I'm back on board, and I've get me started on my for audiobooks. It's just got a really nice putting onto a camera on SD either. So sounds pretty good. Hard work. I normally go through NDI with the camera and record straight away onto vMix, and that's the end of it. Not too bad. I can't hear any obvious road sounds. Get it indoors. And no preamp sounds at all. See what's what. All right. Well, what I'll do now is you probably already heard some of this stuff, but I haven't. So then I'll bring in the video from the camera and put it in before this bit. It's a warp in the time-space continuum. But that's very exciting news that you can just open it up and they are as separate tracks now. Rode, you've done it again and again and again. It's so good. Shows, I guess it has a folder. You can open up projects as different shows so that it allocates where they're going to go. That's pretty exciting. And I'll get back to it. And I think probably say tune out from here or whatever you call it. And I've already said goodbye in the van video, so goodbye again from the main studio. All right, bye.